What are we running around with a bunch of heroes in this country? What are you fucking idiots? We got a bunch of heroes in this country willing to risk it all.
Guys, thanks so much for joining me. John Soto, this is SotoCast. The great Tim Dillon has another great point. This is towards the end of his podcast. It just came out. Take a listen. We'll talk like we always do. Please hit that subscribe button. Thank you.
I'm going to risk it all to help some woman I don't know. Half of those people want it. They're jealous they can't rape the women. What are you talking about? What, a bunch of heroes? They're going to risk life and limb to help their fellow man? What country do you live in? Fucking get out of here. What country do you live in? Well, so many people would have to be in on it. No. They would gladly be in on it. They would willfully be in on it because they don't want to make their lives any more difficult than they already are. That's why they're not coming to the defense of anything. They don't care. So many people would have to be there. No, there's an enforced code of silence. And you know what enforces it? Threats to people's livelihood, their level of comfort. And we're not talking about poor people that have nothing to lose here. We're talking about people that have a lot of fucking money. They have a position in society that they don't want to lose. So many people would have to be in it. Why aren't there more heroes in Aspen? Why aren't there more heroes in Aspen?
It's funny because this is one of my arguments that I make for why I do believe he went to the moon, even though all of my friends, give me hell over it. One of the arguments that I do make is that, that we went there so many times. And if you're going to fake something, why do you do it so many times? This is a little bit of a different take. Granted, I still hinge when it comes to the moon theory or the moon discussion that there were many, many people involved. And I think that some of those people eventually would have said that, that didn't happen. That is one of the things that I hinge on when it comes to that argument. This is a different argument, right? Because this we're talking about, this is like life and death cults, like really, really heavy crimes. The moon thing is, if you're a scientist and you worked on the propulsion and that didn't happen, and you have a lot of these people, I feel like that some of that stuff eventually would have hit the light of day. But that's just me. And again, the moon thing is a very touchy subject. I know that. Like I said, I think it happened. I think we went there. A lot of people don't, which is fine. But he actually gets very, very. He goes on a tear right here. So let's give it a listen.
On the slopes, aren't they heroic? Where's all the heroes in Palm Beach? Where are all the heroes? Where's the fucking the spirit that founded the country? The spirit of the people that fought the British? What? Can you imagine? Just think about it for a second. You're in Aspen. You wake up at the lodge. It's snowing outside. You have a cup of coffee, and someone comes up to you and they go, "Did you know that guy Jeffrey Epstein?" You go, "They think he's trafficking women and children." And now half of them, let's be honest, half of their responses, "Oh, I'm also doing that." And then they go, "Is there good money in that?" You have no idea. You have no idea what good business it is. That's half of them. Half of them go, "Oh, I'm actually doing that. I'm also doing that." You're doing that. I heard you were doing it. Now that's good business there. "Oh yeah, we put him on. We've got a sultan who's a billionaire. He does shipping. We throw him in a crate." Interesting. Are you getting the waffle? Do you want to split the waffle? That's half of them. Now the other half would go like this. Okay, so best case, worst case, they're also trafficking women and children in Aspen when they say that. That's the worst case. You go, "Oh yeah, I know. I've been to the island. I know exactly what he's doing." Do you want his number? That's worst case. Worst case, they go, "Oh, you need his number? I have his number." Best case, they go like this. Somebody goes, "I hear there's a guy, that Jeffrey guy that we met. He's like a shady guy. He's involved with trafficking women and children." This is what they do with the coffee, ready? Huh. Do it again. You just heard that Jeffrey Epstein was trafficking women and children. You're in Aspen, Colorado. Fresh coat of powder on the hills, on the mountains, fresh coat of powder on the mountains. You're sipping coffee at the lodge. You hear 9 a.m., Jeffrey Epstein trafficking women and children. Somebody tells you, "You know that guy Jeffrey we met? He's trafficking women and children." Your response. Huh. That's what it was. That's what it is. What do you think they're going to do? "Well, let's call the FBI right now. Let's interrupt our vacation and launch a crusade to destroy this billionaire and ourselves in the process because we're heroes. Heroes in Aspen. We've got it. We're heroes." Most of these people, their money's fake. They know it.
And that's such a great point, right? Because a lot of the argument coming out is why didn't more people say what was going on? Why didn't they expose it? Why aren't there people now coming out and saying, "Yes, I know," it's to Tim's point, right? Power and money breed power and money. And if you have the genetic makeup to stick your neck out and help others that are not yourself, then you're not going to be in the position to have power and money. That's the breakdown. If you are, if you try to help others, or at the very least, trying to other people to die and get killed and have horrible things happen to them, if you stick your neck out, it's going to get chopped off. And these people, whether they're politicians, whether they're, oligarchs, ultra wealthy, tech bros, whatever these are extremely highly motivated, highly driven. They have to be extremely selfish and self-serving, because that's how you get the shit done. And that's why I'm not a very good boss. I know I'm not a very good, which is why I don't, get into any type of business like that anymore. I just don't have that. I don't have that in me. And it's funny because like I look at, if you look at, what was the name? I can't remember her name now. For Atlas Shrugged, Ayn Rand, she would look at me and she would say, what you're doing is wrong. Altruism is not a good thing. You want to be extremely self-serving, and I can see that to a degree. I can see that because if it's just like when you're on an airplane, you got to put the mask on first before you can help somebody else out. But maybe it's a character flaw in me, and maybe, I don't know. I'm sure there's a balance somewhere where you can, there's got to be a sweet spot where you help yourself out, you do for you, and you can help out a couple other people along the way. But to think that anybody in a position of power, anybody in a position of great comfort would stick out their neck for anything, it's a dreamland.
Oh, it's fake. They know it's fake. They know it's fake. They don't even know how they're that rich, half these people. God forbid this thing starts to boomerang on them. They're all going, God forbid, they start looking at how we have our money. How the fuck do we have our money? So this idea that there's just a bunch of heroes in this country, in Palm Beach or in the Hamptons. They're in the Hamptons, they're eating a lobster roll, and they're sitting there, and the bugs, they're flying around, and it's humid, and they're eating a lobster roll in the Hamptons in the summer, and somebody comes up to them and goes, that guy Jeffrey, I hear he does weird shit with women and children. And they imagine that at that point, these people spring up out of their seats, in their pink polos and their white linens, their white linen shirts or whatever, and they spring up and they go, this can't stand. Let's all bond together to make sure that no woman or child is abused. We are the heroes in the Hamptons. They're Hamptons heroes. And then they get in their Broncos, their old Bronco trucks that they drive around, and their BMW X5s, and they all get in their cars, and they go, we're going, and we're not gonna stop. No, there's not. And I've only had money for about 5 years, and I've met some of these people. I've been in some of these environments. Number one, normal people probably wouldn't do anything either. But the idea, some of them would. Some people obviously have done it and provably have risked a lot of their professional life to bring things like this to light. There's been journalists that have done it. I've had them on the show. There are people that have done it in real life. But like this idea that the most privileged people, the wealthiest people, the people who they themselves don't want you looking into whatever the hell they got going on, the people that are from like multi-generational families, wealthy families that want to be out of the public eye, that are very private by their nature, the idea that they're going to like spring into action if they hear that someone's trafficking women and children, the idea that they're going to like, while they're in St. Lucia, walking on the beach, they're going to spring into action and they're going to go, I'm going to make it my life's mission to uncover the truth. Here's what you'll never hear. Here's what you'll never hear if you're at one of those dinners. We got to get to the truth. We got to get to the truth of this, bunny. Lover, we're getting to the truth. We're not going to keep living this life where we bounce around the globe. We're not living this very, very lovely kind of coddled life of boats and planes and beaches and ski slopes. We're done with that. We're getting to the truth now. your marriage would collapse immediately. Your marriage would immediately collapse if you said to your wife or your wife said to you, I'm sick of this shit. The Hamptons, the south of France, the Amalfi Coast, what's it all for? What's it all for? The kids in the best universities, money and houses everywhere, boats and private jets. What the fuck's it for if we can't protect women and children? That's what I want to. You would get divorced. And you would get divorced, and the attorney would totally get it. You go, hi, hey, Bob. Hi, Bob, it's me. Listen, we got to talk. Suzette has lost it. Bob, the other night, she launches into some tirade. She goes, I don't want to go to the south of France anymore. I want to save women and children. What is this disease? Is it a tumor? Do you think it's a tumor? I told her, we were on our way. We're on a drive up to Montecito. She said, I want to dedicate the rest of our lives to helping women and children. And I said, I think you have a brain tumor. Should we get her an MRI? They would think you had a brain tumor. Truly, if you said, I don't care about this money, I want to get to the truth, anyone in that group would think you have a brain tumor. I know enough of these people and how they act. The young kids are fun. They play with socialism like a board game whilst they sail around the globe. And their parents just request their presence at dinner occasionally, and they all kind of stare at each other and then quietly eat food, and everybody's got something else going on. But the idea that any of these people at any time would say, we're going to jeopardize our entire standing to launch a full court press here against this Jeffrey Epstein who's backed by intelligence. Number one, that shuts the convo down immediately. You just go, yeah, he's in with intelligence. We don't know what he's doing. They're raping the kids, I think, for us, for our safety. Oh, okay. I thought it was something like that. There's nothing that,
it's such a point, it's so well said. So well said. You have to laugh about the subject, by the way. I mean, there's really nothing else you could do if you dwell and you drive yourself crazy. But he does it so well. He still makes it funny, still makes you laugh. And then after the episode, then you take a step back and you realize what he was saying, and a lot of it is, very on point. And you have to think that we're not talking about the top 1%. The top 1%, in the United States is probably, making $500,000 a year. If you're living on the coast, that's still not great. And I'm being honest. I'm being totally honest. If you're making $500,000 a year and you're in New York City, you're living well. You're not starving. You're not worrying about where your next. But $500,000 in New York City is the equivalent to living paycheck to paycheck. You're still probably living paycheck to paycheck. How wild that is, but it is absolutely true. So what we're talking about in this scenario is we're talking about 0.1%. Right? You're talking about, and then 0.1% where you're mobile. If you're making $500,000 a year and you live in Wyoming, now you're kicking ass and taking names. You make $500,000 a year and you live in the Upper East Side, and you're paying rent. You're doing well, but it's still a little tight. You probably don't even have a car. It's just as crazy as that sounds. Because $500,000 a year, you're probably putting, if you're investing in a pension and an IRA, stuff like that, maybe you're putting $200,000 in your pocket a month, a year, right? So you space that out over $200,000 spaced over a year. 10 grand a month, take home maybe 12, whatever. Your rent's $5,000. Your rent's $5,000. Maybe 6, maybe 7. $5,000 rent. That's it. That's half your money. I mean, I'm not a mathematician. My numbers may be a little off, but you got to understand, like with my investments and my pension and my contributions to my insurance and healthcare and separate IRAs and life insurance, stuff like that. I take home 40% of my money. 40%. I have the federal, state, and local taxes. I mean, I think state and local in New York City, you're looking at like 15% of your gross income. And then you have Your federal goes up to like 30%, depending upon what your tax bracket is. And then you have your pension contributions. Then you have a separate IRA if you have that. You have your medical insurance. So if you're making $500,000 a year, it is not out of the realm of possibility to say you're living paycheck to paycheck if you're living in Manhattan. So the people that he's talking about in this scenario, I mean, these are the true elite that would have been exposed, that would be exposed and have the exposure to Epstein. And if not Epstein himself, then other people that are Epstein-like. Because he's not the only one. Let's be real. Excuse me. And like I said, they're not going to be in the game of fixing shit. Come on, let's be real. You know, they're from a totally different society. They're from a totally different mindset. And if any of them were to step out of line, I don't think it would go well for them, which is exactly what he's saying. Watch the great Tim Dillon every single Saturday. Watch me every day. Hit the subscribe button. That is all I ask, is just subscribe. I really appreciate all the new subs. Thank you guys so much. If you want to follow me on X628free is the channel name. Find that on the X if you want to follow me there. I'm John Soto. Check out the great Tim Dillon. See you on the next show, guys. Take care.